Hi everybody. So in this video, I want to talk a little bit more about response writing and what it entails. And specifically, I want to talk about constructing a thesis statement for response writing. So one of the things I'm noticing, and this is always a struggle that people have when they're writing response papers, is that some of the planners, you're focusing a little bit more on the topic of the article than the article itself. So the topic of the article, be it cancel culture or women in the workforce or the mental health terminology, whatever one of those papers that you chose. When you write your paper, your response paper, you're not responding to those topics. You're not saying, like, I think that mental health is this. You're not saying, like, cancel culture is bad. You are actually going to be responding and evaluating to the author and the article itself. So you're going to want to shift your perspective from thinking about this essay as a response to the topic. Shift to thinking about it as a response to the article itself and what the article itself says about the topic and whether or not that's effectively said. You're not really even going to get too much into, like, if you agree or disagree with what the author says about the article, because that was more of what we did in the personal essay. In this paper, think of yourself as a critic. You are critiquing whether or not this is well written as an article, whether or not you agree or identify with the article and what it says. You are going to focus on whether or not the article is well written and effective and meets its purpose. That's your job in the summary response paper. So you want to make sure that's reflected in your thesis statement and in all of the body questions of the body paragraphs of your paper. So I want to talk a little bit about thesis statement. And so this is the sample thesis or the sample paper for this unit. It's the summary and response paper. It's located in the Unit 3 Summary and Response Writing, Unit 3 Learning Materials, if you would like a sample paper. And I just want to look at this example so you can get an idea of the language. Where it talks about the article is mostly informative, and this is my reaction to how it's written. So you can see that the article and an evaluation of it is going to be part of the sentence itself. You're not going to say, this is about, what is this about? Oh, about surveillance. This is an article about surveillance. You're not going to say, well, I think surveillance is a terrible idea. You're not even going to say, well, I agree with the author when she says surveillance is a terrible idea. What you're going to say instead is the author's article is great at informing people that surveillance is a thing that's happening through her use of evidence. That's the kind of thing that you want in your summary response. So you can see the difference a little bit. We are looking more specifically at the rhetoric of the situation. We're looking more about how it's constructed in the summary response. We're looking at whether or not it is effectively written or well written. So that's our goal. So this might be a helpful example. So what I want to talk about now is just maybe looking at the planner and some ideas for sort of shifting the focus. So first of all, if you struggled with this and your body paragraphs are just your opinions on the topic. So let's say you suggested in your planner for cancel culture that one of your paragraphs is going to be about how cancel culture is difficult for celebrities who experience it. That is more of for an argument paper. That is not for a response paper because it doesn't include what the original author says about it. So instead, you want to shift the focus. And one of the ways to do that is, as I mentioned last time, looking at one of the, let me just pull it up in the announcements, looking at one of these questions on the generating rhetorical response pages. A page that I created. I created a bunch of questions that you can answer. Pick a couple of questions, 2 or 3, and then, whichever 3 you pick, you will answer them as the topic sentences in your paper. So I might have given you advice that you need to go back and do that as I'm looking at the planner. For the most part, it seems like people did that. The problem that I'm noticing is more that you guys seem at a loss. You all seem at a loss about how to create thesis statement for this type of paper. So I'm just going to pull up like a sample thesis outline planner. And I'm going to say that I answered a question about my article, and I'm just making this up. This is all fake. Even my article is going to be fake because I just want to give you an example. So I'm going to say that I read an article called, I don't know, this background and context should also be about the article. So this can actually be about the subject because you're going to really get into the background of the summary of the article in the summary. So this background context can just be like one or two sentences explanation kind of about the topic. If you want to refer to the author, you can. You don't necessarily have to. But I'm going to say that I am referring to a particular article. In the background context, I'm going to want to at least mention it. So you can kind of see in that summary paper that here, the article, A Surveillance Society, suggests that people in the 21st century are soon going to view and accept surveillance as a common fixture in their daily lives. You can see that in this sentence right here, this basically is just a one sentence summary of the main idea. So that's a really good idea. And then you can get into all of the other details here in the summary. All of the other pertinent details you need to include to make it a complete summary can go in here in the summary section. So at the end of my background section, I'm going to say something like article. And again, I'm just making this up. Okay. Okay, so you can see that what I've done here is made up an article, but this is the kind of sentence that you're going to want. Okay, so it gives a little bit of background. And then for my thesis statement, I'm going to want to explain whether or not this article is effective. The thing of it is, I don't want to just make this thesis statement up out of nowhere. I don't want to just be like, this article was great because da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm actually going to go back and I'm going to construct my thesis statement based on the things I've said in my article, in my outline rather. So for the first main body point, if I say that one of my first responses to the article was the author uses effective evidence. I'm going to use a little bit of first person here. I'm okay with that. Okay. So this is a critique of the article. The author uses effective evidence that successfully appealed to pathos for me. Another one. Again, I'm just making these all up. Oh, whoops. This shouldn't go here. What am I thinking? It should go right here. And so for the second one, I'm going to say the article Okay. The article was tonally perfect because it was relatable and never too preachy. And then for my third main point, I'm going to say Okay, so again, maybe these aren't perfect points, but these are the ideas. I have two positives. The author uses effective evidence to successfully appeal to pathos. The article was tonally perfect because it was relatable and never too preachy. I wish the author had cited some stronger statistics to show how many people are really unhappy with social media but feel that they cannot quit. These are all the impressions that I'm putting together. And to create my thesis statement, I am going to I'm going to mash them together. And that's how I'm going to create this overall idea of how I feel. So you can see that there were two things I liked about it and one that I was a little iffy on. So I think for my thesis statement, I'm going to say something like, I don't remember this. Oh, I almost said I don't remember, but I made it up, so it doesn't matter. Smith's article. Smith's. I'm going to give this person a first name. Excuse me. God bless me. Okay, so I tried to pause it, but I don't think it worked. So Rebecca Smith, 20, I don't know, 17, we'll put it at that. And maybe I'm going so hard on the statistical data because in the third article I found, there's lots of statistical data proving her point. And I'm curious as to why Rebecca Smith didn't include data that's obviously available. That's something I'll get into the paragraph itself. But this is the type of thesis statement we're talking about. Rebecca Smith really appeals to the reader through her evidence and tone, but it felt like some hard statistical data was lacking from this article. And that's the kind of thesis statement that I've created from all of these different summary points. So hopefully that gives you a better idea of what I'm looking for from the paper itself and from the thesis statement as well, which means the conclusion also, because the conclusion is going to be a restatement of the thesis.